wasn't planning to talk about this. I really wasn't. But last night, I had that dream again. The same one that comes back every couple of months. Cold, wet, silent. A bottle of water sitting on the table. Just sitting there. Me. Just staring at it. Unable to move. Unable to breathe. And in the dream I always know. Something is wrong with that bottle. But I never know what. Until I wake up. 3 months ago my son came to visit me. Ethan. My only child. He doesn't come often anymore. He says it's because of work, and I believe him. Or at least I used to. That day he looked different. Still smiling, still polite, still calling me Mom like always. But something about the way he hugged me felt off. Like he was measuring how long he had to hold on. Like it was rehearsed. He brought groceries, milk, fruit, almond butter like I always liked. He even brought me flowers. Sunflowers. My favorite. And I wanted to believe it was all out of love. I really did. He handed me a cold bottle of water, still sealed. Here, Mom. You must be thirsty after working in the garden. I smiled and took it. And in that moment something inside me twisted. Because just the day before, I found something buried deep in a stack of unopened mail. An envelope with my name on it. But it wasn't from a friend. It wasn't even addressed to me. It was addressed to him. To Ethan. But it was about me. It was a copy of a life insurance policy. Very large one. $500,000. Taken out just 3 weeks prior. Signed electronically. Beneficiary. Ethan J. Moore. Insured, Margaret A. Moore. Date of birth mine. Froze. Shut down. Read every word. I'm not senile. I know what life insurance is. I know people do it to protect their families just in case. But this wasn't done with me. It was done on me. Without telling me. Without asking me. Without anything. So when he handed me that bottle, my hands didn't shake. But my heart did. I looked into his eyes. Warm. But distant. Like he was trying too hard to look normal. I took the bottle. Held it. And smiled. But inside, every nerve in my body was screaming. Do not drink that. And so I didn't. I waited until he went to the bathroom. And that's when I did it. I switched the bottles. He never noticed. He just kept chatting after he came back. Told me about work, about Tara, about some new startup idea. But all I could think about was the bottle sitting in front of him now. The one he thought he gave me. And I watched him. Very, very closely. Because something in my gut told me. This visit wasn't just about flowers and almond butter. This visit was about something else entirely. So I sat there. Listening. Smiling when I needed to. Nodding in the right places. But inside, I was watching that bottle like it had fangs. He talked on and on about his startup idea. Something about an app for renting luxury pets. I wasn't really listening anymore. All I could see was condensation slowly dripping down the side of his bottle. My bottle. The one he meant for me. Every word he spoke felt like a test. Every glance he gave me felt measured. He was checking. Watching. Was I sweating? Did I feel dizzy? Had I taken a sip yet? I could feel it. The tension behind his casual tone. The small twitch in his cheek. The way he kept glancing at the bottle. Then at me. He was waiting for something. But so was I. I kept the conversation light. Asked about his girlfriend Tara. He lit up. Said she might move in with him soon. Said she was smart, driven. The best thing that ever happened to him. He talked about her the way you talk about someone you'd go to war for. Or kill for. And then it happened. He excused himself to use the bathroom. The moment the door clicked shut. Moved. Fast. Precise. Silent. I stood up, walked to the counter. Picked up the 2 identical bottles. Mine still unopened, his half full. And switched them. I put his cap back on. Just tight enough to look untouched. Placed my bottle exactly where his had been. Put back down. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might actually collapse. And that would have been the cruelest irony, wouldn't it? He came back just as I settled in. Didn't notice a thing. Not the slightly different angle. Not the subtle condensation pattern. Not even the faint tremble in my fingertips. He picked up his bottle. The one he thought he gave me. And took a sip. I watched him. Closely. He kept talking but his rhythm changed. He blinked more. His hands moved slower. He started a sentence, then lost his train of thought. 5 minutes later, he rubbed his temple. Said he was feeling lightheaded. Probably just dehydration. Maybe it's the heat, he said with a weak laugh. It's kinda warm in here, right? No, Ethan. It wasn't the heat. He stood up, then sat back down. I asked if he was okay. He smiled, but it was crooked. His lips pale. I think I just need to lie down for a minute. And without waiting for my answer, he walked into the guest room. More like stumbled. And then, silence. I stood alone in my kitchen. One hand on the counter, the other holding my phone. I didn't know whether to call 911, or just wait and see if the boy I raised, the boy who used to fall asleep on my chest, had actually tried to kill me. And if he had, what did it say about me? That I just handed him the very thing he meant for me. I stood in the kitchen for what felt like hours. But it couldn't have been more than 15 minutes. No sound from the guest room. Not a cough. Not a breath. Just the ticking of the clock above the fridge. Every second I imagined the worst. Ethan, slumped on the bed. His chest still. His eyes blank. What if I was wrong? What if he really just wanted to spend time with me? No. I poisoned my own son. I dropped into the kitchen chair. My legs shaking. My mind spinning. This wasn't supposed to happen. I wasn't supposed to be the one making decisions like this. I'm a mother. Bake pies. I send Christmas cards. I keep extra blankets in the closet, for when it gets chilly. Not this. Not life and death decisions in the middle of my kitchen. Finally, noise. The creak of the guest bed. The soft pad of footsteps on the hardwood floor. Then the door opened. Ethan stood there. Alive. Awake. Pale. Sweating. Breathing shallow. He leaned against the doorframe. Like standing upright took all the strength he had left. Mom! His voice cracked. I think I need to go to the hospital. My stomach twisted. This was it. The moment of truth. I didn't ask questions. Didn't accuse. Didn't cry. I just grabbed my purse. Helped him into the car. And drove. The hospital was only 10 minutes away. But it felt like driving through molasses. Every red light, eternal. Every turn, sharper than it should have been. And through it all, Ethan sat silently, staring out the window. Not one word. Not thank you. Not sorry. Not even mom. Just silence. They took him in immediately. Ran tests. Took blood. Hooked him up to a monitor. A nurse came out after an hour. She said he was stable. But then, he paused. Asked me to step into a private room. My heart stopped. Those rooms are never for good news. She sat me down. Spoke gently. Told me they'd found traces of a foreign substance in his system. Toxin. Not enough to kill. But enough to make him sick. Enough to confuse. To make someone feel lightheaded. Forgetful. Weak. She said they'd sent it to the lab for confirmation. But she already had a guess. Ma'am, she said softly. This looks like it might be ricin. Ricin. The word hit me like ice water. I'd seen it on the news. TV shows. Breaking Bad. Poison. Deadly. Almost undetectable. The nurse asked, do you have any idea how he might have been exposed? And I wanted to laugh. Or scream. Or collapse. But instead, I looked her straight in the eye. And said, I might. She stared at me. Waiting. Maybe for an explanation. Maybe for a confession. But I wasn't ready to give her either. Not yet. 'Cause there was one more thing I needed to know. One final piece of this twisted puzzle. And the only person who could give it to me was Ethan. The next morning, Ethan was awake, alert, hooked up to IVs pale as paper, but alive. I stood outside his hospital room for a full 5 minutes before walking in. Not because I was afraid. Not exactly. But because I didn't know which Ethan I'd find. Would it be the boy who used to bring me flowers on my birthday? The boy who used to fall asleep on the couch with his head in my lap? Or would it be someone else? Someone I never really knew? He looked up when I entered. Gave a weak smile. Hey, Mom. Like nothing had happened. Like we were picking up groceries after church. I didn't smile back. I pulled the chair close to his bed. Sat down. Folded my hands. Then I said, what was in that bottle, Ethan? His smile faltered. Just slightly. Blinked too slow. Breath too shallow. I don't know what you mean, he said. And for the first time in my life, I wanted to scream at my own son. But I didn't. I stayed calm. Colder than I'd ever been. The doctors ran tests. They found something in your system. Something that doesn't belong. Something deadly. He turned his head. Looked at the wall. Didn't say a word. So I leaned closer. I switched the bottles, Ethan. Last night. I saw how you were watching me. Waiting. Timing every move. And I switched them. Pause. If you drank what you meant for me, I need to hear you say it. He closed his eyes. His lips trembled. For a second, he looked like a little boy again. Like the kid who used to run to me when he scraped his knees. But this wasn't a scraped knee. And I wasn't going to kiss it and make it better. Still silence. So I pushed harder. I know about the insurance policy, Ethan. I found the paperwork in your backpack last week when you stayed over. $500,000. Payable on my death. No medical exam. Signed and submitted without my knowledge. His eyes opened. Whiter now. Alert. Cornered. And in that moment, I saw it. Fear. Not the fear of getting caught. But the fear of knowing that everything, every plan, every lie, every careful step, was unraveling. Then he whispered. It wasn't supposed to go like that. I leaned forward. What do you mean? He swallowed. His voice barely audible. I didn't think it would actually work. It was just insurance. Just in case. In case of what, Ethan? Yes. My voice sharp now. Colder than before. In case you what? Slipped in the shower. Had a heart attack. Or in case a poisoned bottle of water did the trick. He broke. His face crumpled. Tears welled in his eyes. I'm sorry, Mom. Messed up. I thought Tara was gonna leave. She said she was tired of waiting for us to level up. She wanted a new place. Something big. Something fast. My heart clenched. You were going to kill me. So your girlfriend could have a condo. He didn't respond. He couldn't. His shoulders shook with sobs. And for a second, just a second, felt pity. Until I remembered. He handed me that bottle. With a smile. He looked me in the eye. And smiled. I stood up. I'm calling the police. I said it calmly. Not for drama. Not for punishment. But because I had to. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't be a mother anymore. I'd be an accomplice. He looked up at me. Eyes red. Voice shaking. Mom, please. But it was too late. The switch had already been made. Not just the bottles. For me. I wasn't the same woman who walked into that kitchen yesterday. I was someone else now. And so was he. I made the call. With trembling hands. And a voice I barely recognized. I'd like to report a poisoning, I told the operator. My son is the suspect. And just like that, I became something I never thought I'd be. A mother. Calling the cops. On her own child. The officers came quietly. Professional. No handcuffs. They didn't need to cause a scene. The scene was already inside that hospital room. Ethan didn't say a word when they entered. Didn't protest. Didn't ask me to stop. He just looked at me. And I will never forget the look in his eyes. Not anger. Not hate. Not even fear. Disappointment. As if I had betrayed him. They took his statement. Read him his rights. And when they rolled his wheelchair out of the room, followed. Not because I had to. But because some part of me. The part that still remembered his first steps. His first word. His tiny hand wrapped around my finger. Wanted to see him. Just a little longer. Even if it broke me. Word spread fast. By the next morning my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Texts, calls, voicemails. Some said I was brave. Others said I was cruel. Family members asked if it was all some kind of mistake. Friends didn't know what to say. But the one that hurt most was a message from my sister. You always were too hard on him. Maybe this was your fault. And maybe it was. I started asking myself the impossible questions. Had I worked too much when he was young? Did I miss the signs? Was there a moment, one moment, where I could have saved him from becoming this? Was there a time I could have hugged him tighter, taught him better, loved him harder? Or was this always going to happen? I stayed home for days. Curtains drawn, phone on silent, eyes on the TV, but seeing nothing. Every corner of the house felt haunted. Not by ghosts, but by memories. The hallway where he used to drag his blanket behind him. The kitchen table where he once cried over a scraped knee. The fridge door still covered in his childhood drawings. All of it, mocking me. Then came the court date. I didn't want to go, but I had to. I sat in the back of the courtroom, dressed in black, trying to disappear. Ethan entered in a suit that didn't fit. Thinner now. Older. He didn't look at me. Not once. The judge read the charges. Attempted murder. Use of a biological agent. Fraud. His lawyer spoke. Said Ethan had no prior history. Said he was under emotional duress. Blamed it on stress. Blamed it on love. Blamed it on everything but him. Then, it was my turn to speak. They called me to the stand. My legs felt like lead. My throat like sandpaper. But I walked up, raised my hand, swore the oath, and when they asked, "Can you describe your relationship with the defendant?" I said, "Yes, I'm his mother. I raised him. I loved him. And I nearly died. Because I trusted him." The courtroom was silent. Ethan's eyes flickered, just for a moment, but I saw it. Shame, and something else. Something that looked a lot like regret. When I stepped down, I didn't return to my seat. I walked straight out of that courtroom, out into the cold morning air, and I stood there, for a long time, wondering how the hell we got here. The sentence came 3 weeks later. Ethan was given 12 years, eligible for parole in 6. The courtroom was quiet. No gasp, no outburst, just the sound of a gavel, and the silence of a family that had shattered from the inside out. I didn't cry. Not in that courtroom. Not when they led him away. Not even when he looked back. Just once, like he was waiting for me to stop it. But I didn't. Because I couldn't. Because I shouldn't. Because if I had, what kind of mother would I be? I went home that night to an empty house. No more police. No more lawyers. No more questions. Just me. And the echo of everything I had lost. I poured myself a glass of wine. Sat at the kitchen table. Stared at the chair Ethan used to sit in. Back when things were normal. If they ever were. I should have felt peace. Closure. Justice. But all I felt was tired. So damn tired. Like the truth had cost more than the lie ever did. The days blurred together. People stopped calling. Stopped asking how I was. The headlines faded. New scandals replaced ours. Ethan's name disappeared from the news ticker. But it never disappeared from my mind. Then one afternoon, got a letter. No return address. No name. Just a plain envelope. With my name on the front. Inside was a single piece of paper. Clean. Precise. He didn't act alone. That was it. No signature. No explanation. Just 6 words that ripped open every wound I just started to close. I read it again. And again. And my mind spiraled. Who else knew? Who else helped? Tara. His girlfriend. Was she the one who gave him the idea? Pushed him? Planned it? Or was it someone closer? Someone in the family? Friend? Someone who had something to gain? Was this whole thing bigger than I thought? Was he just the puppet? And I had missed the strings. I tried to let it go. Told myself it was probably a prank. Cruel joke. But deep down, he knew. Something wasn't right. Something still didn't add up. Why did Ethan never mention Tara during the trial? Why did he protect her? Even then. Why did the police never question her? And why did I find 2 life insurance policies in the drawer he thought I'd never open? One with my name. And another with my sister's. I stood in the hallway that night, holding that second policy in my hand, heart pounding in my ears. My sister. The one who said it was my fault. The one who had always been there. In the background. Smiling. Helping. Always close. Maybe too close. Suddenly every memory twisted. The way she comforted Ethan after his father died. The way she insisted I leave my spare key with her. The way she handled the finances when I got sick last year. All of it. Replayed with a darker shade. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in bed. Lights off. Letter in one hand. Policy in the other. Trying to decide if the real betrayal had only just begun. I stared at the insurance policy. until the ink blurred into nothing. My sister's name. Either. On the beneficiary line. Not once. Twice. 2 separate policies. 2 separate times. Both taken out within months of each other. Both signed by Ethan. I wanted to believe it meant nothing. Maybe it was just precaution. Maybe it was an accident. But after that anonymous letter, after everything that had happened, I couldn't afford to believe in maybe anymore. So I did the one thing I never thought I'd have to do. I started digging. First, I called the insurance company. Told them I needed to verify a policy. Pretended to be confused. The agent on the line was polite. Helpful. Almost too helpful. He confirmed both policies. Said they were processed through an independent financial advisor. Didn't give a name. But when I asked for the address on file, it was my sister's. Hung up, hands shaking. Every instinct inside me screamed, "It's a coincidence. Don't jump to conclusions." But another voice, darker, sharper, whispered back. She knew. That night, I drove to her house. Didn't call. Didn't warn her. Just showed up, unannounced, uninvited. Like the truth doesn't wait for permission. She opened the door in pajamas. Surprised, but not alarmed. "Wow, you okay?" she asked. "I was gonna call you tomorrow." Smiled. Tried to act normal. Tried to act like I hadn't just uncovered the beginning of something awful. "Can we talk?" said. "Of course," she answered. "Always." We sat at her kitchen table. 2 mugs of tea. 2 sisters. But the warmth was fake. The tea tasted like metal. And I couldn't stop staring at her hands. Steady. Unbothered. Clean. Too clean. I eased into it. Mentioned Ethan. Mentioned the trial. Watched her face. She didn't flinch. Didn't look away. Then I brought up the policies. "How do you think those got in his name?" asked. He paused. For a second too long. Then she said, "Well, maybe I helped him fill out the forms. You know how bad he was with paperwork." Usual. Deflective. But it hit me like a gunshot. She didn't deny it. "I found a letter," I said quietly. No name. Just said, he didn't act alone. Her eyes narrowed. "People lie, you know that," she said. "They want to see monsters in every shadow." And maybe that was true. But in that moment, her shadow felt very real. I left her house that night, feeling like a stranger. Not to her, to myself. Because deep down, I wanted to believe her. I needed to. But the seed of doubt had already taken root. And once you plant doubt, you start to see it everywhere. The next day I checked her financials. I still had access. We shared some accounts for Mom's care. Years ago. And what I found? Large deposits. Months before the poisoning. Payments labeled consultation. From a company I'd never heard of. I looked it up. Had 1 employee. No website. And an address listed to a vacant lot. I printed everything. Spread it out across my living room floor. The policies. Payments. Timelines. And there it was. Pattern. It wasn't just Ethan. It was her. It had always been her. And maybe he hadn't betrayed me to get rich. Maybe he did it to protect her. Picked up the phone. Dialed the detective from Ethan's case. My voice cracked when I said, "I think I missed something. I think someone else was behind it all." He paused, long enough to make my heart stop. Then he said, "We've been thinking the same thing. We've been thinking the same thing." That's what the detective said. 6 words. Same number as that letter. But this time, they weren't a warning. They were confirmation. The next morning, Detective Hale met me at a diner off the highway. He looked tired. Not the kind of tired that comes from lack of sleep, but the kind that comes from watching evil wear a familiar face. He laid a file on the table. Worn at the edges. "This," he said, "never made it into the trial." Opened it, and my stomach dropped. Inside were emails. Dozens of them. Between Ethan and my sister. Not just about money. Not just about life insurance. But plans. Talks of timing. Dosage. The best way to make it look like an accident. They even discussed me. "She's been sick. She won't suspect a thing. She's too trusting. She always was." I sat there, hands trembling, as I read how they laughed about my confusion. mocked my memory lapses, turned my vulnerability into a game. And Ethan, my son, wasn't just complicit, he was recruited. She was the one who started this, Hill said. She came to him first, flipped the whole thing, gave him a reason to say yes. I felt like I was drowning in my own blood. For weeks I blamed Ethan. For months I grieved what I thought was his greed, his selfishness. But now, I saw it, all of it. My sister knew I would forgive my son, eventually, but I would never forgive her, so she made sure he took the fall. She had the motive, Hale continued. She was in debt, had a history of forging documents. She cleaned up every trace, except for one. He pointed to a timestamp, a surveillance video from a pharmacy. She was buying something only Ethan was accused of possessing. That's the break we needed, Hale said. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, because in the video, she was smiling, like she was buying gum, not murder. I went home that night, and sat in front of the mirror, and I whispered to myself, over and over, she did this, until my voice cracked, until I wasn't even sure if I believed it anymore. 'Cause how do you process the fact that your only remaining family tried to erase you, for money? The next day they arrested her. Her office, in front of her staff. She didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't ask why. She just looked up at the officers, and said, "Took you long enough." She confessed the same day. Said she'd been planning it for over a year. That Ethan was easy, desperate for purpose. Desperate for someone to blame for his father's death. And she gave him that purpose. Gave him me. She manipulated him, Hale said. Made him think he was protecting you. That getting rid of you was the only way to save himself. I wanted to hate her, to scream, to curse her name. But all I could do was mourn the two people I had loved, more than life itself. Because I'd already buried them. I just didn't know it until now. And that's when it hit me. The worst part of grief isn't death. It's betrayal. It's been 7 months. 7 long, slow, bleeding months. Since the truth came out. Since my sister was arrested. Since Ethan was sentenced. They put him in a psychiatric facility, not prison. Said he was coerced. Emotionally compromised. I didn't know how to feel about that. Still don't. Because what do you call it? When the person you love kills you piece by piece, but still looks at you like they're sorry. I visit him every week. The first time, he wouldn't look at me, sat there shaking, like a boy again. Not a murderer, not a monster, just my son, the one I raised, the one I still see in every quiet corner of my home. He cried, whispered. She made it sound like you were already gone, like I was fading, like I didn't matter anymore. And in some ways, he wasn't wrong. I had become so small, in my own story, that I didn't even see the plot twist coming. My sister was sentenced to life, no parole. Her trial was colder, no tears, no excuses, just the facts, laid out like broken bones. The day she was convicted, I stood outside the courthouse, with a photo of my mother in my hands. Not for the media, not for justice, for myself. Because Mom always said, what's done in the dark will one day beg for light. And now, even if that light burned, at least it revealed the truth. I still live in the same house. The one Ethan tried to poison me in. People think that's crazy, that I should move, start fresh. But they don't understand. I refuse to give them everything. Not my memories, not my walls, not the sound of the rain hitting this roof, where I once held my baby boy, and promised he'd never feel alone. Because this house is mine. My survival is mine. They took so much. My trust, my peace, my innocence. But they did not take me. Now every morning, I walk into the kitchen, boil water for tea, stand in the same spot, where I once almost died, and I whisper, to the ghosts, to the pain, to the girl I used to be, I'm still here, I'm still standing, and you didn't win. This story isn't just about betrayal, it's about what comes after, about what survives the fire, and in the end, what survived was me. The end.